Yo, what's up gamers? So, I walked into the break room today and the entire place looks like it failed a raid mechanic. The snack shelf is collapsed, the microwave is sparking, the coffee machine is straight up playing Final Fantasy boss music, and Gary from IT is just sitting there, calmly eating noodles, while everything around him is on fire. So I'm like, Gary, the break room is literally dying, and he just looks at me and goes, "Don't worry, I'm rebuilding it." So I replied, cool, maybe unplug the microwave before it summons Bahamut. Then Gary says, no, only way to fix this place is to destroy it and start over. And that, my friends, is when I realized this is exactly what happened with Final Fantasy XIV 1.0. This MMO was so broken, Square Enix didn't just patch it, they dropped the dragon on the whole world and built a new games from the ashes. So now I welcome you back to the Janitor Files, a series where we mop up gaming's biggest disasters, comeback stories, and the messes the industry usually leaves for someone else to clean. So before we get into this, do me a favor, hit like, subscribe, and drop your take in the comments down below. If a game launches broken, but eventually becomes amazing, does that erase the original disaster? Because this wasn't just a bad launch, this was a full-on MMO catastrophe, and the cleanup plan was basically end the world first, ask questions later. So let's grab a mop, because this time the mess was so bad they literally let Bahamut finish the job. Before we talk about broken menus, server meltdowns, and Square Enix dropping a dragon-sized delete button on its own world, we gotta understand why this failure actually mattered. This wasn't some random MMO from a studio still looking for the power button. This was Final Fantasy, one of the biggest RPG names in gaming history. And for anyone who doesn't live inside MMO patch notes, an MMO is basically a massive open RPG where thousands of players share the same world, run quests, fight bosses, craft gear, join parties, and slowly forget what sunlight looks like. Final Fantasy was known for their massive worlds, emotional gut-punch stories, iconic music, summons, crystals, airships, and hairstyles that need their own structural engineer. When Square put that name on a box, players expected polish, they expected adventure, they expected magic, and this wasn't even Square's first rodeo online. Final Fantasy XI launched in 2002 and proved Square could actually run a persistent online Final Fantasy world. It was difficult, old school, sometimes confusing enough to make your quest log file a complaint, but it lasted for years, built a real community, and became one of Square's most profitable titles ever. So when Square Enix announced another online Final Fantasy, fans weren't nervous, they were excited. They thought they already did this once, now imagine what they can do with better graphics, new technology, and a fresh world. People expected magic, and for a little while, that's exactly what the trailers looked like they were selling. At E3 2009, Square Enix revealed Final Fantasy XIV, a brand new online world set in Eorzea. Not just Final Fantasy XI with shinier rocks and better grass, this was supposed to be their next big thing. The original team had the resume. The producer was Hiromichi Tanaka. The director was Nobuaki Komodo, both Final Fantasy XI veterans, so on paper this made sense. The people who helped build Square's first successful MMO were now building the next one. But the MMO world had changed. World of Warcraft was the king of the genre at the time, so every new online RPG was basically compared to the giant that basically owned the buffet. Players expected smoother controls, clearer menus, faster combat, better questing, and online systems that didn't feel like they were assembled during a fire drill. Square wanted to compete. They wanted gorgeous next-gen visuals, high-detailed characters, and that premium Final Fantasy shine. So they built the game using crystal tools, technology originally made around Final Fantasy XIII. And that's important, because Final Fantasy XIII was a single-player game. Final Fantasy XIV, on the other hand, needed to support a massive online world, full of players, servers, menus, markets, combat, and constant interaction. That's like trying to run a full restaurant kitchen with equipment built for a food truck. Beta testers warned them too. They posted huge threads about clunky UI, lag, slow combat, and frustrating systems. But a lot of that feedback was ignored before launch. Square wanted the next beautiful online Final Fantasy world, but beauty was hiding some seriously broken plumbing. And that promise was everywhere in the marketing. The trailers made Eorzea look incredible. Huge landscapes, dynamic weather, beautiful races like Hyre, Elysian, Lalafell, Mikote. You had skills like crafting, gathering, different classes, different jobs, big cities, and that classic Final Fantasy energy where the world looks gorgeous. But you can already tell something emotionally devastating is waiting behind a mountain. The pitch was simple. Live inside a Final Fantasy world with your friends, explore, fight monsters, craft gear, meet other players, build your character, get lost in Eorzea. This wasn't being sold as just another MMO where you collect 10 glowing mushrooms, then question every decision that brought you here. This was supposed to be Final Fantasy Online, a living world, a shared adventure, a beautiful place you could actually exist in. After Final Fantasy XI, fans had every reason to believe Square had already made an online Final Fantasy once. Now they had better graphics, new technology, and a whole new world to build. The marketing sold a world you could live in. The launch gave players a world they had to wrestle with. Then September 30th, 2010 hits and players log in. The world still looked pretty, but actually playing the game, that's when the break room floor caved in. The UI was slower than a DMV line. Menus had delays that made you question your life choices. Basic interactions felt like they were being approved by a committee of sleepy moguls. You click something, wait, click again, wait again, and by the time the menu responded, your snack had expired. Combat felt stiff too. At launch, there wasn't even auto attack. Without it, combat felt awkward. Stop, start, and weirdly heavy. Like the game was asking what if an MMO moved like it was walking through wet cement. And the problems kept stacking. Copy-pasted terrain everywhere. The Black Shroud got roasted harder for looking like the same forest hallway wearing different hats. The fatigue system made experience gain worse the longer you played one job. So the game basically told players you're having too much fun with that class. Stop it. Then there was Market Wards. Instead of a clean auction house, players had to dig through awkward vendor areas to find what they wanted. It felt like trying to buy groceries from 50 people standing in different closets. And the story? It basically stopped way too early. The content felt thin, the onboarding was weak, the progression was confusing. The problem wasn't one broken system, it was everything players touched. This wasn't just a rough launch, players were fighting the game just to play the game. And once the reviews started landing, it got ugly fast. Final Fantasy XIV 1.0 ended up sitting around a 49 on Metacritic. Critics basically agreed on one thing: the show was gorgeous, but the game underneath was coughing smoke. The graphics strong, the music still Final Fantasy, but the UI, the performance, the slow combat, the lack of content, and the unfinished feeling, that's where everything fell apart for a lot of players. It felt like Square had built a gorgeous hotel, then forgot the stairs, the plumbing, and half the doors. The backlash got so bad Square Enix had to suspend subscription fees. Think about that, this was a subscription MMO, and they basically had to say, yeah, we can't charge you for this right now. The PlayStation 3 version got delayed indefinitely, players were angry, critics were brutal, and Square Enix had to publicly face the fact that one of their biggest franchises had just launched one of the worst MMOs of its era. Even Square Enix president Yoichi Wada admitted the Final Fantasy brand had been greatly damaged. That is not normal PR language, that is corporate speak for the break room is on fire and the smoke alarm is writing a complaint. Final Fantasy XIV didn't just disappoint fans, it embarrassed Square Enix. Most studios would have slapped on a few patches, promised a roadmap, and hopefully nobody noticed the walls were melting. Square did something even crazier. They replaced the original leadership, and in December 2010, just 3 months after launch, they brought in Naoki Yoshida. Now if you're new to this story, let me introduce you to the man who basically became the hero of this whole saga. Naoki Yoshida, better known as Yoshi P, was a veteran Japanese developer who had been working on Dragon Quest X. He was also a serious MMO fan himself, the kind of guy who actually plays the type of games he's been making. That mattered because he wasn't walking in to defend every bad decision from 1.0. He was walking in to figure out what could actually be saved. And he didn't just become producer, he became director too, which is rare. That meant he wasn't just managing the cleanup, he was steering the whole rescue operation. And when Yoshida looked at Final Fantasy XIV 1.0, he realized the foundation itself was cracked. The old server code and Crystal Tools engine meant basic modern MMO features like proper matchmaking, cleaner systems, and even having large numbers of players visible on screen were either difficult or basically impossible. The whole system was unstable, so his team had a choice: keep patching a broken house or tear it down and build something that could actually stand. They chose the insane option. They kept 1.0 running publicly, adding jobs, chocobos, dungeons, and improvements, while secretly building a new version underneath. New engine, new servers, new combat, new UI, a new foundation, and Yoshida started dropping letters from the producer, talking directly to players with unusual honesty. What was broken, what they were fixing, what the plan was, what could not be saved. He wasn't just trying to repair the game, he was trying to earn players back. He was announcing that they weren't just fixing bugs, they were replacing the floor, while the building was still open, and Yoshi P became the face of that effort, the guy who turned a corporate disaster into a community comeback. And then Square made the kind of decision you only make when the break room is already on fire. They turned a shutdown into lore. They didn't just announce servers are shut down, thanks for playing. No, they made the death of Final Fantasy XIV 1.0 part of the story. A lesser moon called Bahamut started getting closer and closer to Eorzea. Players could literally look up at the sky and see this thing hanging overhead, like the world's worst maintenance notice. And as time passed, Bahamut got bigger, more ominous, more impossible to ignore. Then came the reveal. Bahamut wasn't just a moon, it was a prison, and inside it was Bahamut. A dragon so powerful that when he broke free, he didn't just threaten the world, he erased the old version of it. The final save happened on November 1st, 2012. The servers went dark on November 11th, 2012, and the end of an era cinematic showed Bahamut tearing Eorzea apart. Fire, destruction, desperation, players finding what looked like the end of everything. Instead of pretending 1.0 never happened, Square made its failure part of the story. The broken version became the old world. A Realm Reborn became what happened after it ended. This is how a bad launch became a legend. On August 27, 2013, from the ashes of Final Fantasy XIV 1.0 came Final Fantasy XIV, A Realm Reborn. It had early access starting August 24, 2013, and this wasn't a, hey, we patched the bad version, please come back. No, this was a full resurrection. We're talking about a new engine, way better UI, faster combat, auto attack, proper duty finder, real market board, no fatigue nonsense, better questing, cleaner onboarding, and a story set 5 years after the calamity, so the old world's destruction actually mattered. What made it feel different? Square didn't erase the failure, they turned it into the foundation. The disaster became history, the new version became the sequel. Players weren't just coming back to a patched MMO, they were stepping into a world that had survived the end. Critics responded better, old players came back, new players showed up, and slowly the impossible started happening. The MMO that had embarrassed Square started becoming good. Really good. A Realm Reborn wasn't a patch, it was a resurrection. And somehow that comeback didn't stop A Realm Reborn. Expansion after expansion from Heaven's Ward to Endwalker and beyond, the game kept proving the rescue was real. By October 2021, Final Fantasy had over 24 million registered accounts and became the most profitable Final Fantasy title ever. Yoshi P became one of the most trusted devs in the entire MMO space, not because everything was perfect, but because players felt like he understood the mess. So what does this actually mean? Final Fantasy XIV 1.0 wasn't just a bad launch, it was a game built on trust, and then launched in a state that burned that trust down. Bad tech, ignored warnings, a beautiful world that barely worked, and a company that had to admit, yeah, we broke this. But instead of quietly walking away, Square Enix did the thing most companies never do. They changed leadership, they communicated, they rebuilt the foundation. And then they turned the failure itself into the story. They didn't just patch the mess, they dropped Bahamut on it, and started all over. So we're back in the break room and Gary from IT is still sitting there with his noodles, watching the microwave spark like it's entering phase 2. Now he's taped a sticky note to the snack shelf that says, rebuild scheduled after world-ending dragon event. Which feels unsafe, but honestly, that is the most Final Fantasy maintenance plan I've ever seen. So on that note, I gotta bounce before Gary actually drops a moon on the break room and causes a server reset. But before I go, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe for more Janitor files, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next mess we gotta mop up. Now if you could drop a comment down below, if a game launches broken but eventually becomes amazing, does that erase the original disaster? This is Scruffy the Janitor signing off. Peace out.